Good morning. Let's try that again. Good morning. Here we go. Welcome to worship with the community of First Unitarian Church of Omaha. I'm Reverend Shari Woodbury, the congregation's settled minister. Whether you are here in the sanctuary this morning or joining online at any time, I'm glad you have chosen to connect with this community. We come together each week to worship, which from the Latin means to remember that which is of worth. And so week after week, we reground ourselves in our highest values. A special welcome to visitors. This congregation is a community of all ages and abilities. It is a community with a rainbow of gender and sexual identities. It is a community of diverse cultural and class backgrounds. We share many sources of inspiration and common liberal religious values. Whoever you may be, we invite you to bring your whole self into this space. Visitors are invited to fill out a visitor form. That's the yellow form in the hymnal racks if you're here in the pews. If you're online, you'll find a link to the form below the description of the service on YouTube. This will give you the opportunity to get on our e-news list if you like, so that you can learn more about what's going on at the church and what else you might want to take part in. Everyone's also invited to subscribe to our YouTube channel and any other social media that you use. And if you see a message from the church that touches you and you think it might speak to someone else you know, I hope you'll share it. I have a few announcements this morning. If you used the parking validation machine earlier, we've just discovered that it's not working correctly. We're trying to fix that, so please try again after the service to be sure that your parking for the garage is validated. Happy announcement. First UU will be marching in the Heartland Pride Parade 2025. That's on Saturday, July 12th at 9:30 a.m. The rally point will be announced soon. If you have questions or want to get more information, you can email prideparade@firstuuomaha.org or talk to Jean Wagner, who will wave her hand there. She's at the very back. She's one of our ushers today. And last call for contributions to the KIOS underwriting campaign. Ads on KIOS public media during prime time and drive time get the word out about First UU to people who are looking for a community like ours. You can use the collection plate or mail if you'd like to make a contribution, or hand it to Jean. So same Jean Wagner back there. She's being busy for us right now. Don't forget to make your check out to First UU, and you can put KIOS in the memo line so we know what it's for. Thank you. Our church occupies the traditional treaty lands of the Omaha and Otoe, Missouri tribal nations, whose sovereignty existed long before the state of Nebraska. We'd also like to express our respect to the Ponca tribe, the Winnebago tribe, and the Santee Sioux tribe, all native to Nebraska, and many other indigenous folks present in the metro area. Our goal is to keep educating ourselves and to support causes, charities, and rights of Native peoples. I invite forward at this time Steph Lewis to light the flaming chalice. Will you join me in the chalice lighting words? Spark of the Spirit, cupped in earth's embrace, light of love, alive in all creation. As we kindle this flame, we rekindle our connection to the sacred web of life. Welcome, who come in friendship, who long for genuine community.
May you be graciously received here as your authentic self.
Welcome, who come in curiosity, full of questions, or simply open.
May you embrace wonder and encounter new delights.
Welcome, who come heavy with fatigue, weary from the troubles of the world, or your own particular life.
May you rest and be filled in this sacred space.
Welcome, who come with joy for flowing rivers and gentle breeze, for changing skies and green trees.
May the grace of the world leave a lasting imprint in you.
Welcome, who come with thanks for the altruism of the earth and the gifts of human care.
May your grateful heart overflow and bless those around you.
Come, let us celebrate together this wondrous life. I invite you to rise if that feels good in your body for our opening hymn, number 1000 in the teal hymnal, Morning Has Come. Each week, we practice the spiritual value of generosity as we take up a community offering. Half of undesignated gifts are donated to a local cause which resonates with UU values. The other half supports the work of this congregation. If you're online or would rather use your smartphone to give, you can use the QR code or the link. For June, our Share the Plate recipient has been Parents, Families, and Friends of Lesbians and Gays, also known as PFLAG. PFLAG is the United States' largest organization for parents, families, friends, and allies united with people who are lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer, LGBTQ. Thank you for giving in a spirit of generosity. And thank you to one of our youth, Avana Relaford, for a beautiful offertory. I invite forward our membership coordinator, Melissa Gibson, to join me for a new member ceremony. Today we will welcome 2 new people to our community as official members. I invite them to come forward at this time, Julia Sullivan and Marilyn Schubach. This is a time of joy for our congregation as we welcome these new members and renew our shared commitment to this community.
We are pleased that each of you has chosen to formally become a member of this church. Today, we celebrate that commitment with the congregation. When we gather, we search together for meaning and truth in life, and we share our joys and sorrows with one another. Joining the First Unitarian Church of Omaha means being a deeper part of this gathered community, participating as voting members in the governance of the church, supporting others, and being supported in return. If you will join us in this mission and work, please say together, I will. You pass.
Thank you. Will the members of the congregation please rise as you are able and join in the congregational response? We'll do this as a column response, so you can just listen and echo each line, or if you like, you can follow along on the slides. I'll say the words, and then you can join Melissa in echoing them. We, the members of First Unitarian Church of Omaha.
We, the members of First Unitarian Church of Omaha,
welcome you to our shared journey.
Welcome you to our shared journey
of community, discovery, and celebration.
Of community, discovery, and celebration.
We invite you to contribute.
We invite you to contribute
to our work for healing and justice.
To our work for healing and justice.
And pledge to join.
And pledge to join
our strength and talent with yours.
Our strengths and talent with yours.
Believing that through our common effort.
Believing that through our common effort.
We may better shape.
We may better shape.
The meaning of our lives.
The meaning of our lives.
May we work together.
May we work together.
To sustain this congregation.
To sustain this congregation.
A place of comfort and challenge.
A place of comfort and challenge.
A home from which to journey.
A home from which to journey.
And return once again.
And return once again.
We receive you with open hands and hearts.
We receive you with open hands and hearts.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Congregation, you may be seated.
New members, you signed the membership book. We also have welcome gifts for you to remind you that you belong to this community and this community belongs to you.
It is said that membership truly begins not when you sign the book or appear before the congregation in a ceremony like this one, but when you find yourself disappointed with the community and you choose to return anyway, putting our covenant of right relations into practice and asking others to live into those promises as well. So we're going to alternate reading the covenant now before I ask you all to affirm it. Let's see, I'm going to scooch over here. If you're on the piano side, why don't you read with me the first line, and we'll alternate. And then if you're on the organ side, you can read with Melissa the alternating lines. Ready? We, the congregation of First Unitarian Church of Omaha, together.
To create a religious community where we can freely explore our values and foster diversity as a source of communal strength.
To build healthy relationships, seeking to understand each other and respect our differences.
To listen deeply and endeavor to communicate directly, honestly and compassionately, particularly when we are in conflict.
To do our best to make amends when we have hurt each other, even unintentionally, to learn from our mistakes, to forgive, and to reconnect in a spirit of understanding and commitment. Members old and new, do you affirm your commitment to this covenant? If so, just as you are, you may say, I do.
I do.
Reverend Alice Blair Wesley said, to join a free church is to sign a promise that may sound simple. It should sound simple, but which, if you keep covenant, brings you into intimate companionship with others who have promised to live with all the integrity you and they together can muster in all the years of your lives.
To our new members, Julia and Marilyn, may you find comfort in this community. May you find joy in it, may you be challenged in it, and may you know that your presence among us is a blessing for all.
We are so glad to have you with us. And we have our customary Ivy and church history book to present you. If you haven't met Julia or Marilyn before, you can be sure and say hello at coffee hour. Now we come to the time for sharing of joys and concerns. Each week we take this time to lift up those things that are bringing smiles and joy into members of this community so that others can share in that happiness. And we also lift up concerns and challenges that members among us are facing so that we can offer one another our care and support. What have we got today, Colin? These can be written in the back of the binder at the back of the sanctuary when you're here in person, or submitted online beforehand, or even written in the chat.
From Patricia Pyatt, saying my joy is that the tea party yesterday seemed like a success. I want to thank all of the people who stayed to help with cleanup. I especially want to thank Della, who does so much to help me with various events. And from Julie Unger, saying for our immigrant neighbors and refugees who are losing their status, and for all those detained. From Terry Lynn, thanks to the organizing of this morning's climate change program. Lots of work to be done. And let's have a big round of applause for our speakers who are in the audience this morning. From Linda Drybulis, saying I would like to thank Reverend Shari and the congregation for being so warm and friendly to me, and also to my adult children, Kelly and John. We are moving to Cheyenne, Wyoming in a few weeks. The church has been the highlight of my short one-year stay in Omaha. I know you will continue to thrive, and I hope to find the same welcome in my new home.
Well, short as it was, we're glad that you got to spend this time with us and we got to know you, Lindy. From your seat, you're invited to join in our centering song. It's 123 if you want to open the gray hymnal, or you can just use the slide. On the wings of this music, let us enter a period of silence. In preparation for moving inward, you may wish to gently close your eyes, sit tall, get comfortable in your seat. After a common prayer, we'll hold a time of quiet together, which I'll end with the sound of the bell. First, I share with you these prayerful words of Victoria Weinstein. Spirit of life and love, we have gathered again out of our separateness to know that we are not alone. In our fears, we are not alone. In our grasping for peace, finding it in fleeting moments, and losing it again to some turmoil of the mind and heart, we are not alone. in our cynical moments, our wonderings, is this all there is? Is this the best we can do? We are not alone. In our pain, we are not alone. And so we dwell in you, Spirit of healing and wholeness, for this brief time, willing to be held here in an immense and eternal love, whose origins we do not know, whose reality is immeasurable. It calls us on. It reaches between us to fill spaces. It consoles the grieving, and it calms the anxious. It gives new vision to eyes dimmed by tears and exhaustion. It opens the ear to deeper truth. It makes a place in the heart as hope. Let us rest in this peace and be held here. Amen. A time of quiet for your own private prayer or meditation.
A reading for today. Reverend Woodbury subscribes to a Substack, a weekly email newsletter from a fellow Unitarian Universalist minister named Kimberly DeBus, who writes for a wide audience of UUs and beyond. I share with you this morning much of her column from a few weeks ago on June 11th. It's titled Confession and a Drop of Wisdom. So here's my confession. DeBus writes, straight up, I'm exhausted. And I've been hesitant to talk about exhaustion because every time I do, someone writes to me about how boring it is, how blah, blah, blah. We know the world is on fire. The work is hard. Ministry is hard. We know. Shut up. Yeah, I know. And so I do shut up about it. I suck it up and power through like we all do. We drink more coffee, prioritize, remember that others are struggling too, find short-term solutions, and mostly stop talking about the ways in which everything in the world is making things 10 times worse than they used to be, and 1,000 times more exhausting than they used to be. If you attended the climate program this morning, you can attest to that. Because it is not just exhaustion. It is something else. Burnout, but from what? Stress? That's even worse. A made-up Madison Avenue word, as Jed Bartlett would say. That's a reference to the old TV show, The West Wing, starring Martin Sheen as President Jed Bartlett. DeBus goes on, but I sit down every Wednesday morning with a too long list of topics for the Substack that grows longer every day because the congregational shenanigans keep getting wilder and weirder. But the energy to write about them keeps disappearing, and still I write. Most Wednesday mornings, hiding the exhaustion, occasionally punting, occasionally missing the mark, and definitely kicking topics down the road and onto that list of too long topics. The truth is, I am flat out exhausted, with still a fairly long list of things to do. I just don't know where I, or anyone, really, is finding the wherewithal to produce even an ounce of inspiration. Fortunately, I didn't have to look far. As a friend and colleague of mine shared these words of Dr. Zelena Montminy. It is the wisdom I needed to understand what it is I'm feeling. Exhaustion and stress and burnout, yes, but it's deeper than that. And here, DeBus ends with an excerpt from Montminy's poem, The Ache of Being Awake. So maybe what you're feeling isn't stress, or burnout, or distraction. Maybe it's grief, not for a person, but for a moral compass we didn't realize we lost, for the values you thought were universal, for for accountability, for the quiet agreements we once shared but can't seem to find anymore. It's not dysfunction, it's your integrity reacting to distortion. You may not be able to fix the whole thing, but you can choose something real inside it. Tell the truth. Tend to your corner. Anchor to care. Be a place where clarity still lives. That ache you feel when you're awake, it's the call to build something better. And you are where the rebuilding begins.
Does this sound familiar? Exhaustion, stress, burnout, and grief for the last moral compass of a nation. For actions by leaders which, week after week, violate one's sense of integrity. My colleague Kimberly Debus expresses what she herself feels and what she witnesses among many peers in ministry, myself included. And I suspect quite a few others in this sanctuary may resonate with her words as well. And so I hope my musings this morning about the practice of sabbatical will be helpful, not only in relation to my coming time apart from the congregation and what that means for the church, but to the need you may feel for rest and renewal in your own life. The word sabbatical is a translation to English from the Greek word sabbatikos. Sabbatikos meaning of the Sabbath. So a sabbatical as an extended Sabbath. You may recall one of the origin stories in the book of Genesis in the Bible, which tells how God created the world, including humans, in 6 days. And on the seventh day, God rested. Our cultural practice of resting and worshiping at the end of the week is rooted in this same idea. Biblical tradition also reflects a practice of Sabbath for the land. A verse in Leviticus says, "In the 7th year, there shall be a Sabbath of solemn rest for the land, a Sabbath to the Lord." In practice, this year was not only a fallow time for the land, allowing the earth to remain resilient and productive for the long haul, it was also a time of rest for all of the people who worked the land. I don't think it's a coincidence that the practice of sabbaticals for ministers was long to take one every 7 years. These days, it's every 4 to 7 years, with 1 month sabbatical for every year served, which is what my letter of call to this congregation says. My 4-month sabbatical will run from July through October. Now, as it happens, I am in my 10th year of full-time ministry this year when I take my first sabbatical. I want to explain to you a little bit about how that happened. I started my first ministry with Westside UU in Fort Worth, Texas, in the fall of 2016. My family moved from Indiana to Texas. I started getting to know the congregation. And just a couple of months in, with the 2016 election, the conditions around us changed. We did good ministry together, that church and I, including our public ministry, giving witness to Unitarian Universalist values throughout the first Trump presidency. I would have been eligible for my first sabbatical after 4 years in that church in Fort Worth, except that I had become homesick for the Midwest and concerned about how far away we were from my aging parents in Iowa. So when I saw that this congregation, First Unitarian Church of Omaha, was looking for a settled minister, I decided to explore that possibility and see if it might be a fit. Indeed, I thought it was, and so did this congregation, and here we are. That set my sabbatical clock back to 0 when I started here in summer 2020. Now, before I arrived here, in fact, the next week after I met the search committee, and I see a few of them in this room, I delivered my pre-candidating sermon in the neutral pulpit, as they call it, which happened to be at the UU Church in Des Moines. And that very next weekend, everything shut down, because this was March 2020. And the United States, our part of it, the middle part of it, could no longer think of COVID-19 as something happening in distant China. The pandemic had come to us. So I said goodbye to one church over Zoom and in a drive-by event. No hugs, oof. And I moved with my family to the Omaha area. And I started a ministry with you all that primarily took place on Zoom and in drive-through parking lot events for my first 15 months here. You may remember us reopening the church in the fall of 2021. At that point, it felt like it had been a lot longer than 15 months that we'd been closed, because time was different in that period. And you may remember how gradually, over the next several years, we rebuilt a sense of community and connection and normalcy, albeit a new normal. This past year, as I was working with the sabbatical team to prepare the church for this time, was another period of switching things up for the congregation. I'm not sure how much members of the church felt this time of change, but we went through significant transitions in staffing last year. As head of staff, I ran point and transitions in our administrative staff, our music director, our professional religious educator, and our new AV Tech coordinator, which is basically all of the core staff of the church except me. It was a lot of change at once for me to lead behind the scenes. Meanwhile, outside the church, you know what happened with the election. last fall and the new administration installed in January. I've been so proud of how this congregation engaged in our democratic process up to and through the election and on into this year. Trump redux, with even more white Christian nationalism riding on his coattails this time. I thought the first time around tested democracy as we know it, but this second term, a new level of national moral compass demagnetized, a new level of cascading threats to core values. Well, over the 9 years that I have served these two different congregations, people I went to seminary with who started ministry around the same time as me had their first sabbatical years ago. Some of them have had two. So I hope you can understand why. I hope you know that it's not about this congregation in particular when I share that I'm really ready for this time off. I'm really ready for this time of renewal. I believe I'm actually highly resilient. I don't think I would have made it this long in ministry if I wasn't, and especially not this long in this tumultuous kind of period that we've been in without the deep rest of sabbatical. But it is time. Thank you. Okay, I thought maybe that was all too self-indulgent to tell you, but you've persuaded me it was appropriate. All that said, sabbaticals are not just about recovering from exhaustion. They're not just about ministering through extraordinary times. On the contrary, consider how Robert C. Saylor describes sabbaticals. Now, Saylor is a seminary professor and also directs the Clergy Renewal Program for Lilly Endowment, investing in sabbaticals for clergy across the country. So he has given a lot of thought to this subject. Saylor writes, sabbaticals are for healthy pastors and healthy congregations. Sabbatical leaves are about revitalizing and renewing healthy pastors who could use some time to recenter and the very things that allow them to be excellent at their work, like spiritual care, spiritual practices, and time with loved ones. He concludes, soul care, the work of ministry, requires soul maintenance. Soul maintenance. So you may be curious what my soul care will consist of over the 4 months of my sabbatical. If you saw my picture featuring the new sabbatical whiteboard in my home office, my theme is, as you know, roots and wings. So the way I'm thinking about this, roots activities are those that nurture my well-being. As the word sabbatical itself indicates, sabbatikos, first and foremost, that means rest. Not working, but taking care of myself, body, mind, and spirit. You might not know it to look at me, but like the church, my physical infrastructure needs tending. My nervous system needs some support. My YMCA membership is calling. Where have you been, Shari? My cookbooks long to be cracked open. Maintenance is overdue. Like the church with its beautiful building this year, I'm going to make up for lost time and invest in a strong foundation, a baseline of well-being and healthy habits to carry me, I hope, far into the future. If you know me, you won't be surprised to hear that I expect to spend a lot of time in the woods and probably walking along rivers and streams. I will also be with loved ones. My one firmly planned activity is a trip to Valentine, Nebraska. I feel like I've lived in Nebraska 5 years now, and most of what I've seen, other than around this area, has been along I-80 driving to Colorado, which doesn't feel quite right. So it'll be my family, my brother and niece, and my parents, just a couple of weeks from now. 3 generations joining up to check out the Niobrara River and Smith Falls State Park, and just spend quality time together. I feel it's especially important to nurture relationships during my sabbatical because parish ministry can be an isolating way of life. Every move means starting over on your social network where you live. I work a fair amount of evenings, most weekends, and only have one day off each week for my personal life. Plus, I'm an introvert who needs quite a bit of downtime alone to recharge. Now, I have a family too, a husband and a teenager who played our piano a little while ago, and I love spending time with them. But I can't expect them to meet all of my needs, right? So this all adds up to a need to develop local friends. Of course, I love the relationships I have with people here in the congregation. That's the heart and soul of ministry. That's what brings the rewards of this calling. But it's not the same as having friends, because I'm here to serve you, not to meet my own needs through you. Serving this congregation is also not the same as having a spiritual community that nourishes me. I do not have a brick and mortar church of which I am a recipient of care and inspiration, not since I started serving congregations. Instead, gatherings with other ministers where we worship and learn together, commiserate and celebrate together, laugh and sing together. That's my church with my colleagues. That's when I am fed. So I might do some other travel to connect with family and with friends in places I used to live and maybe some colleague friends. I need to do some basic rest and recharging before I can discern what feels right and helpful. I might take a class or join a group and see if I can't develop a friend in the area beyond clergy colleagues. And a solo activity I enjoy, but rarely find time for normally, that I may indulge in, is writing more songs. This is how I will tend to my corner and anchor to care, to borrow Zelena Montmany's poetic phrases. Rest, rivers and woods, recreation, time with old friends and family and colleagues, maybe making a new friend who lives here, maybe a bit of songwriting. This is how I anticipate watering my roots. And what about you? If you resonated with the reading, if you're feeling any exhaustion or burnout or grief for our country, what do you need at this time in your life over this summer? What will refill your cup? Roots and wings. What about the wings? Well, here I turn to a book our sabbatical team worked with titled Clergy Renewal, The Alban Guide to Sabbatical Planning by Bullock and Brucehoff. It quotes Arthur Holder, who picks up on the sort of agricultural metaphors often found in the Bible. Holder speaks of sabbaticals as a time for sowing, reaping, and lying fallow. Lying fallow, he describes as the times when those on sabbatical get in touch with their souls and dig deeper to understand who they are and what they have to offer. This includes the rest and all the other things I just talked about that goes along with watering one's roots. The wings come in with the sowing and reaping parts of his imagery. Sowing, Holder writes, means reading in new areas, visits and encounters with colleagues in new fields of study. Reaping produces a tangible result, such as progress on writing a book, a new course designed, or a new sense of vocational clarity. Holder suggests that the most effective sabbaticals include some of all three: fallow time, sowing, and reaping. Or in the metaphor that I have drawn from Spirit of Life, roots and wings. The projects on the roots and wings side of my roots and wings whiteboard fall in the sowing and reaping categories. finishing the graduate class I'm currently taking on trauma, suffering, and care for spiritual caregivers. Reading and writing related to the past and future of our Unitarian Universalist tradition. And work on one or more specific projects by which I can make my growing understanding of healthy versus unhealthy forms of spirituality useful to other people. If you've heard me preach about cults and high control groups, this will ring a bell. I have 3 project ideas, one of which will likely be the dissertation project for my Doctorate of Ministry eventually. One is a small group ministry or support group program for people healing from religious harm or trauma. A program that might be piloted in a church like this one. The second is a preventive curriculum for youth and young adults, somewhat like Our Whole Lives, only for learning to recognize healthy versus unhealthy group dynamics, whether in face-to-face communities or the online spaces that beckon our young people. And the third project is maybe, just maybe, a book proposal to Skinner House for a book for free-range seekers and the Wild West of today's spiritual marketplace who want to be savvy seekers. So these are all possible fruits of the deep dive I have been taking into high control groups, healing, and prevention. Now, Holder of the reaping, sowing, lying fallow imagery was speaking to seminary faculty about academic sabbaticals. Robert Saylor speaks more specifically to a congregational setting and to sabbaticals for parish clergy. I was interested in what wisdom he might offer for discerning what kinds of aspirational activities are appropriate for a congregational minister's sabbatical. Because as you can tell, I have quite a list of projects I'm interested in working on, but I don't want to inadvertently work through my sabbatical. I don't want to miss the purpose of this sacred time apart, miss the renewal that it's intended to provide. And I realize that my list of projects is too much to try to wholly accomplish on sabbatical, or even perhaps in the next few years. When discerning how to use the sabbatical time, Saylor suggests the most important question to ask is, are the activities that the pastor will do chosen out of joy or out of obligation? Joy or obligation? I perked up when I noticed Saylor speaking to writing projects in particular. He says writing projects on sabbaticals are easy test cases for the joy versus obligation question. Are there deadlines? Or is part of the spiritual reconnection coming from the unhurried pace? Did the pastor choose the topic because they think it will appeal to others, or does it speak directly to their intellectual curiosity and hunger? Is the end product or the process itself at the forefront? Well, for me, it's clear that this process itself is what it's all about. And what I relish about being able to work on any of my long-term projects over my sabbatical is not only the intrinsic motivation I feel to do this work, but the absence of deadlines or external pressure. The organic way I can let things emerge when they're ready, following the ebb and flow of my energy and ideas. And keeping all that in balance with the rest and relationship building and recreation. That is the first priority of this time. So that's me and wings. What about you? I asked you earlier how you might want to water your roots over the coming months. How might you want to spread your wings? Is there any sowing you want to do or any reaping in the realm of your life's purpose? In her poem, Montmany wrote, "You may not be able to fix the whole thing, but you can choose something real inside it and be a place where clarity lives." What might that look like for you? Well, if you haven't been through a sabbatical season before as part of a congregation, and I think it goes back to Ron Knapp since this congregation has had one so a long time, you might be surprised to learn that the renewal is meant to be for the congregation as much as for the minister. And not just after a refreshed minister returns and sustains a longer and more effective tenure with the church, but during the sabbatical itself. Saylor writes that the best congregational activities during the renewal period are the ones that draw on and enhance these twin goods, encouraging leadership among the congregation while also creating space for reflection. You will hear more voices from within the congregation while I'm away in worship and beyond. I was getting an advance sneak peek at what John Goldner is going to be sharing some stories next month, so you can look forward to that. Typically, new people get drawn into lay leadership in part because the minister isn't there, and members take greater ownership of the work of the church. What about the space for reflection part that Saylor pointed to? This spaciousness can come in ways that invite participants into greater spiritual depth, individually and collectively. It can mean recreation and building community together through fun times. It will mean experiencing other flavors of ministry through guests who preach and teach, including the sabbatical minister, Reverend Dennis McCarty. And a renewing spaciousness for the congregation can mean, as Saylor also underscores, introspection about mission. Introspection about mission. What does that mean? I think it means pondering such fundamental questions as, who are you as a congregation in 2025? Why is this church here? What parts of your story do you want to carry forward? It's a church with a long, wonderful history. What parts of that are really important to carry forward into the future? And what new people do you want to reach as you reach toward the future? To me, reflecting on questions like these is the wings side of the equation for the congregation during the sabbatical period. So I invite you to look upon the sabbatical period as a time to water the roots of this community through relationships, spiritual growth, and new experiences, as well as to spread the wings of your imagination about this church's purpose and future. I want to close by addressing a few practical questions that may bubble up. The sabbatical team has covered a lot in their reports previously, and you can watch for a special email from them this week with more information. But you may be wondering things like, what if you bump into me at Baker's, or the Bookworm, or the Bellevue Little Theater? Well, if we cross paths in person while I'm on sabbatical, please do not feel like you must avert your gaze and pretend like we don't know each other. Please say hi. I'll be happy to, say hello and chat a bit. I don't want to get drawn into church business, of course, or end up being on as the minister, but we can warmly greet each other, and there will still be, even though I won't have the tag, there will still be free hugs. Likewise, you may wonder about social media. I'm not sure how much I'll be on social media during this time, but if you are friends with me and you see something that I post, I have everybody in the church on a list, so if you see it, that means I've decided you can see it, and it's fine to comment, as long as you, again, don't share with me the latest about what's going on at church or request care. Don't private message me, please. If you're interested in the writing that I may do over sabbatical, you can feel free to read posts to either of my blogs, which are on my ministry website, shariwoodbury.com. Now, please note, I will not receive any emails to church email addresses during this time. Any email that's sent will not be there in my inbox when I return. There's a setting where you can just make it go poof right away, so that's what will happen. And likewise, do not call or text me on my church cell. My Google Voice line will be switched off. course, be assured that if there's any kind of real emergency at the church that needs me in particular, which seems unlikely, but if there was, church leaders will know how to reach me. Otherwise, we will observe this time apart for our mutual benefit. You can remember who you are as a community beyond me. And I can remember who I am as a human being when I'm not wearing the mantle of ministry with you. Then when we come back together after the sabbatical in November, the reunion will be all the sweeter. Renewed, we will rise green to begin the next phase of our shared ministry together. May it be so. Amen. I'm going to invite Douglas to join me for a ritual. Douglas was president of the Board of Trustees over the past year of preparation for my sabbatical, and was also one of the wonderful folks that served on the sabbatical team preparing the congregation for this time. For the last 5 years, I've worked alongside you all in a shared ministry to fulfill this congregation's mission. You've asked me to lead worship, to be a compassionate presence, to work with you to build a more just world, and I'm so proud of the work that you all have done in that area, and to nurture the health of the church as an institution. It is now time for you to release me temporarily from my ministry with you. I'm grateful for all that we have learned together, all we have accomplished, and all the moments that we have shared. And I look forward to returning to you rested, refreshed, and renewed.
With gratitude, thank you. With gratitude for your care and leadership, we release you from these duties for the sabbatical period. To the members of the congregation, please join me in saying, we release you. We release you.
As a symbol of this transition, I remove my stole, which represents the yoke of ministry. I set it aside just for a time.
Reverend Woodbury, will you use this sabbatical to water your roots and spread your wings? Will you trust the congregation, its staff, and sabbatical ministers to faithfully tend to this institution while you are gone? Will you hold to the boundaries that will make this time fruitful for you and for us, so that you return to us renewed and ready for the next phase of our shared ministry? If so, you may say yes.
Yes. You got this.
Okay. And to the members and friends of this congregation, will you offer your goodwill, collaboration, and care as you continue to support the ministries of this church during the sabbatical period? If so, you may say, we will. We will. Next week, the congregation will have the opportunity to meet the sabbatical minister, Reverend Dennis McCarty, who will join us at Brunch Church in the Common Room. You can also watch for an introduction from Reverend McCarty via email.
Meanwhile, as a symbol of the renewing power of this time and a symbol of its limited duration, I present you with a sabbatical candle. It is green like the trees that turn green again in the spring after each season of rest.
Each week in worship, after lighting our chalice, we will also light this sabbatical candle. It represents the light of care and connection between our minister and congregation, which continues even during the time apart. And it represents the growth that both minister and congregation can lean into during this special session. You
may notice there's a matching candle. There's two of them. I'll take the second one home, and place it on an altar there and can light it from time to time to honor our continuing connection and our intention that we both experience growth and renewal over the sabbatical period.
We're going to step over and light both candles now to mark the sabbatical's beginning.
Quick practical note, our parking garage validator system has some hiccups today. If your ticket does not validate correctly when you try again, which please do if you tried earlier, just press help when you leave the garage and tell them you're with First Unitarian Church and they will open the gate. Parking garage staff is aware of the situation, so you won't be charged. I invite you to rise if that feels good in your body for our closing hymn, number 1068, Rising Green. Take courage, friends. The way is often hard, the path is never clear, and the stakes are very high. But take courage, for there is another truth. Deep down, you are not alone.